Hi, my name is Dan, and this is my channel, Engelgeist. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to me, welcome to the channel, and if you're returning to the channel, welcome back. Thank you for tuning back in. This is the fire sign predictives for the month of February 2020 for the signs of Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So all three fire signs. This is broadcasting live currently, so you will have to watch through all of the fire signs this first time, but once it's uploaded to YouTube, timestamps will be included in the video description as other information like on how to book a private reading or whatever. So that will be available to you once this is fully uploaded to YouTube. For those of you that may be watching from Facebook, I cannot see your comments right now. If you are commenting on the video, I'm not ignoring you. I just don't have a chat window up because I want to concentrate on just the signs and the groups of people that I'm working on. So this first reading is for the sign of Aries. I've taken the liberty of already pre-shuffling the cards and setting them out. So we're going to look at the energy for Aries in the month of February. For those with a sun, moon, or rising in Aries, you would be interested in watching this video. If you have heavily placed planets in Aries, or you know of an Aries that you care, a lot about, you can certainly cross-watch this video. It might give you some insight into what to expect for them or yourself for February. Ways that you can support the channel: please give it a like, a share, a comment, a subscribe. Subscriptions to my YouTube channel are huge for me right now as I try and build it. It's quite the struggle. So if you guys give me a subscription, please hit the notification bell over there so that you get alerted when I do go live. I do charmings and other sorts of events throughout the week, and a daily forecast in the morning for the greater collective whole. So that's always available to you too, and you'll be notified when I am live, and then we can interact more that way. But let's get into the reading today. Oh, and you can follow me at Engelgeist333 on Instagram. All right, so this first card is in the center of the spread. This is a little spread that I created a long time ago. This is what I call the U card, or sort of like where you're centered at in the month of February. It won't be where you are the entire time, but kind of like it gives you an idea of sort of where you'll be resonating from in the month of February. It also gives us a little insight into where we're resonating is from. It kind of gives us insight into what we could potentially be creating for the future. So keep that in mind as we look at this card. Oh, it's upside down. Sorry. So this is the Nine of Cups. Sometimes I do read inversions. Let me just look at this and just check in and see if I should be reading this as an inversion. The whole deck could be inverted. I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah, it looks like it might be. I might have placed it down when I cut it inverted. So I'm going to go with this as upright. I may have to upright all of these cards. Yeah, I am going to. So it's just a mistake on my part. So let me just go about doing this, because I don't want Aries to be like having some fucked up kind of February. All right. So, this Nine of Cups to me is all about sort of emotional abundance. Aries being the element of fire, you guys, and being a little bit sort of dynamic in the way that you are. You guys can be a little bit doers more than sort of feelers. This month feels like it's a time for feeling. I mean, that would make sense since we're in the more winter months and the more quieter months. We might be finding ourselves some time to kind of get with our feelings. To me, this feels like an overflow or an abundance of emotions, and they feel positive as I look at this card. I love that we have this beautiful purple ribbon with the sort of the different colors of the rainbow in it. And to me, as I look at that, those colors are making me feel like we actually feel fulfilled. We feel like we are overflowing in the month of February. We may even be feeling some of these effects right now as January comes to an end. Hopefully that you are. But if not, look forward to sort of opportunities where you might be able to sort of get to experience that broad spectrum of emotions within you in a way that feels sort of liberating. Like as I look at this water pouring forth, to me this feels sort of like it's I'm getting the visual of that fountain in front of, what's that hotel in Las Vegas, the one that they time the music. They time the music to the they time the water spray to the music. I can't think of the name of the friggin' hotel, but anyways, this is reminding me of that, this spray of water that's pouring forth. So to me, that feels like there might be, yes, emotional moments throughout February that might be a little bit stressful or sad, but I feel like the overall gist of this card, or the overall experience of this month and our emotions throughout this month, is going to be beneficial. I feel like we are actually like that fountain. We can sort of tune our emotions, or how do I want to say this? Like, how do I say this? We can sort of choreograph our emotions to sort of meet what is going on around us so that we do feel this sort of feeling of abundance and joy. All right. So there might be, like, I am seeing that this water sort of also indicates there may be moments where we're feeling down or sad, but they're going to fit and we are going to sort of like have a little bit of a mastery over them, that being this being a nine. And the abundance that I feel here, to me, I feel like we're controlling the flow whenever we are flowing, whether it be good or bad, right? And so from that control the flow or that sort of mastery that I feel like we can maybe explore and experience and get a handle on in the month of February for my Aries, you guys are going to experience kind of like high highs and maybe a few low lows, but in all of that, it's sort of the broad spectrum. There's like a joy that's taking place. There's an abundance that's taking place. There's like, totally seeing, is it the Bellagio? I think it's the Bellagio fountains. And I don't know if you guys have been to Vegas, but I have to say this. Years and years ago, I went to Vegas, I think for my 30th birthday. I can't remember. I went with a couple of friends and we went to Vegas for a weekend for my birthday. And I stood in front of the Bellagio and I watched those fountains. And it was just Elton John's. If you could tell anybody, this is your song, I think, by Elton John, and I cried. It was, it was the most moving thing I had seen in a while, and it was really beautiful. So, to me, I sort of sense that beauty in this card. Although it may not be like sort of the most perfect month for you, you know, you might have that broad spectrum of emotions. I feel like overall, there's an ownership and a mastery that's happening here that I really like in this card. So look forward to that during the month of February. This next card is the foundation card. This sits down at the bottom. It sort of is the foundation for why things are the way they are. It generally is a card that represents from the past that sort of not only open the door for things to be the way that they are, but it also sort of, the memory of it sort of holds things in place, okay? So let's see what that is. We have the Knight of Wands. Interesting. Oh, you romantic little bastard. So the Knight of Wands, to me, Wands being about fire, which is your guys' home element, is nice. I like that this is our foundation. I like that knights are noble and they tend to be protectors. We maybe have come out of a situation where we felt like we've had the need to sort of do the right thing or be right by ourselves, sort of protect ourselves within situations, stand up for what is right, really sort of lay down the law in that way, that we might have had to be a little bit firm in that. And I'm talking about in the recent past with situations maybe with loved ones or at work, whatever wherever we've sort of needed to put in, how do I want to say, like boundaries or protections. I think that what this is doing is it's enabling us to sort of have that strength to then open up to this emotional side of ourselves or run these emotions and really own them and enjoy them, right? Because we've sort of done the work here with this Knight of Wands that allows us to sort of know that we're protected and safe with ourselves, within our world. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense for my Aries. I like this as the foundation because it says to me, we sort of understand our own strength, we understand our own ability, we understand that we're sort of protected. Well, and I also like that he's sort of, to me, when this side profile feels like he's looking to the future. So like whenever we did set these boundaries in place or we did sort of make these commitments to maybe just they were only commitments to ourselves, right? But when we did make these sort of noble commitments of, okay, I'm no longer going to do that anymore, or I'm no longer going to let that happen to me in this situation anymore, I'm no longer going to stand for that, whatever that sort of statement or that realization was that we maybe acted upon in the past, it has like strengthened us and it's given us this like sort of really good foundation to understand how powerful or how capable we actually are. And I think from that, it opens up the door for this sort of beautiful emotional experience to take place as our center throughout the month of February. I really kind of, I get this keen feeling that we're going to be exploring areas of ourselves emotionally that we maybe haven't always accessed or haven't always felt safe enough or comfortable enough to access, but now it's time because we have this foundation of realizing that we can provide for ourselves exactly what we need and exactly in the way that we need it. Okay, I hope that makes sense. The next card is your soul or spirit card. This is up above you. This card signifies sort of what your soul or spirit wants for you in the month of February. This is the Five of Wands. Now, Five of Wands tends to be about competition, and it's usually like friendly competition, is how I see it. When I look at this, I feel like there is a little bit of element of play to this card. I feel like this is us here, wrapped in this golden ribbon of sort of enlightenment. This being a Wands card, I love that we have all of this fire energy around us. We have the Knight of Wands here, and then we have this Five of Wands up here in our soul space. I feel like this feels to me what the Spirit is trying to say to us is challenge ourselves a little bit, push ourselves a little bit. Hence this emotional exploration that's happening throughout the month of February. There is this opportunity to sort of grow and find abundance through going through these emotions, owning them, even maybe feeling proud of them, like sort of showing them off in a way. To me, this Knight of Wands feels, he feels strong and protective, right? And maybe we've needed to be that way for the last few months of, what's been going on, or maybe during last year, or maybe even the last few years. But in sort of doing that and protecting ourselves and acquiring that strength, we've now gotten ourselves to a place where we can sort of understand that strength. And that's sort of the wrapping of this golden ribbon around this beautiful wand in the center. And then we have these other wands all paying attention to us, right? And maybe they're offering up, now, how do I want to say this? Like, roll with me here, okay? Just hear me out. Maybe these are other outside influences that might be sort of trying to compare us or give us their opinions. We can sort of like play within this energy. I feel like our spirit wants us to sort of reconnect or become aware and understand our sort of own divinity. That's this golden ribbon around it. That's this beautiful bud that's on this wand. If we look at this, okay, if we look at this wand has the bud on it. All of these other wands that may be judgy wands or wands that are coming in trying to butt their nose in there or being a little bit competitive with us, the spirit wants us to realize that, honey, it's okay. Like, they don't have what we have. And what we have is important and intact. So go ahead and feel it. Go ahead and own it. You've certainly done the work and the strength and laid the sort of groundwork and sort of taken the higher road in the past to get us to this point. So enjoy it no matter what they say. Even if it feels a little bit competitive, have fun with it. Like, cut loose with it is sort of the feeling that I get. And shine. This like golden ribbon to me feels like us shining in our lives. Seeing it even amidst sort of maybe the competitive energy that might be around us or the conflicting opinions of others that might be around us. Don't sort of, you are the focus, right? You are the center here. And the beauty that is you and the growth that is you and everything that you've done and what you will experience in February emotionally is going to only add to this, this centeredness and this beauty and this growth, okay? I hope that makes sense, guys. All right, so the next two cards are what I call the outside influences. These, the way that I sort of came up with these is they can represent as people, sometimes events, sometimes things more vague, like belief systems that we've adopted or energies that are having an effect on us, either positively or negatively, right? So they're just things we want to be aware of. They could be helping us or hindering us in the month of February. So let's look at this. So we have the Ace of Pentacles. This is a beautiful card. Aces always mean like sort of dynamic activity, new thought. They sort of have, to me, in my mind, they have this kind of revitalization in a way. Pentacles being the element of earth and also being the sort of element of anything that's sort of earthbound, like relationships, career, money, our home life. It could be something as simple as furnishings in our home. This to me feels like an upgrade, right? This to me feels like, as I'm looking at this pentacle here, it's a big giant focus, right? This feels like our environment or our world is about to give us a big comeuppance, and I mean that in a good way. Like, this is an opportunity for my Aries to sort of look at, okay, what do we want? Right? Like, in our material world, do we want better relationships? Do we want a better job? Do we want a little more money? Do we want a nicer house? Do we want a new car? What is it that we want materially? And how is that going to feel? Right? Because we have this abundance that we're operating from in this Nine of Cups, that if we really pay attention to how it feels for us and we connect to how much we deserve, like in this Five of Wands, because even though there's conflicting opinions around us, our spirit wants us to know that we are covered in gold, that we have the bud there, right? The others don't. So don't listen to those outside voices or outside opinions. Don't allow other people's, ability to naysay or whatever. Our spirit really wants us to hold ourselves in center, which we have been doing. But to me, when I look at this Knight of Wands, we've been doing it from a sort of more protective place. There's a vulnerability here in this Cups card, and also a vulnerability here in this Wands card, even though there is strength in the Wands, right? And there's strength in the emotions too, don't get me wrong. But this is about sort of being strong in an element that's sort of new to us, right? But as we do that, we can sort of bring in the ideas of, as we're exploring our emotions and how good things feel or upgrades feel to us, as we exude that out, we bring this sort of Ace of Pentacles in, right? We bring in the opportunities that the Ace of Pentacles um, represents, right? These sort of ideas of where do we want improvements in our lives? Where do we want more? How's that more going to feel? It doesn't even necessarily have to be more. It can be having adjustments to certain areas of our lives that we sort of um, maybe didn't see before. Sometimes aces can be sort of that, that sort of inspired thought around a relationship or something that's going on in our material world that we're like, oh, wait a second, I didn't even know I could have it this way. That's what I want, right? So keep an eye out for that in the month of February, and then keep an eye out for how that's going to feel, because I feel like your feelings are going to be key in bringing that in. And you certainly have the strength and the nobility and the kind of clear vision here. This hawk has clear vision, definitely. This is like a falcon or a hawk. There's this clear vision and strength here, and this sort of regardless of what the others say, whatever competition they throw at you, don't let it throw you off of your center. Keep on your path and keep feeling your way towards this Ace of Pentacles. The other card here is the Hanged Man. So Hanged Man is major arcana, which that means that they usually have a little bit extra punch or a little bit extra energy to them. I like that this is represented by this caterpillar. This card has come up in a couple of other signs. I think maybe one other sign this month for the month of February. But what I like about this is it makes me feel like, okay, when I look at this caterpillar and I think of sort of the general idea of what the hangman represents, the hangman in traditional tarot is always sort of, he's hanging there like maybe with a decision to make. But what he sort of needs to realize is that he's sort of the one, he has the ability to free himself up by sort of making that decision, by unhanging himself. All he has to do is pull the rope and untie his foot, and he can fall to the ground and get on his way. And with this, it feels to me like this caterpillar is similar in the sense of, do we want to stay a caterpillar or do we want to be a butterfly, right? What is the decision that we need to take that will make us that butterfly, right? And so this caterpillar, all he needs to do is almost eat away at this leaf to free himself. He could use this leaf as fuel to build his cocoon and then metamorphosize and come out on the other side as the butterfly. So when I look at these two cards together as outside influence, it says to me, some of you may go in all full hog and get super excited and be all about inspired creation materially in the month of February. Some of you might move a little bit more slowly, a little bit more cautiously. Not due to what I'm hearing right now, it's pulling my attention back to this card. That is due to the fact that maybe we've gone through and slogged through some situations in the past that have sort of made us a little bit more choosy about how quickly we move, right? Some of these four wands out here that we may feel are judging us or giving us adverse opinions might be stronger for some of us. So we may move a little bit more slowly or feel a little bit more stuck in February. But that's okay. Remember, the hangman always represents as the opportunity to become aware that we might feel stuck or that we're not making a choice in our life, and then getting about taking the initiative to make that choice, getting in the driver's seat and getting in control of that, and then sort of having that that stuck feeling removed, but of our own doing. And we certainly have the strength to do it. And I think that it almost feels like to me like these two cards could be progressions, in the sense that some of you may hit this first, realize, unstick yourself, and work your way towards this inspired thought and new creation that we see here in this Ace of Pentacles. Some of you might just go straight to this Ace of Pentacles and not necessarily feel as stuck or hung up like that hangman represents. But keep in mind, if you do feel situations where they might be getting in your way or offering you resistance, don't worry. You have the opportunity and the strength and everything really that you need to work your way through the situation in the month of February. That's definitely like the vibe that I'm getting from these cards. Now, this last card is the potential outcomes card. This is the future card. And the reason why I call it potential outcomes is because it is sort of not set in stone by any means. This is sort of where the energy is naturally heading, barring that nothing major changes, right? But through free will and free choice, we can make changes. If this card is negative, we can use it as a warning right here and now to make decisions and choices in our lives to sort of steer a clear of this outcome. It's not set in stone. But if this is a great card and we're like, shit, I want that to happen, we can sort of take heart in the fact that we're moving right towards this outcome automatically, right? So we don't have to put too much effort or worry or energy into it. Okay, so this is the Three of Swords. The Three of Swords is not necessarily always the best card. Let me just look at this for a minute. Because generally the Three of Swords is that heart with the three swords in it, and it always like sort of signifies heartbreak in sort of, I guess, traditional tarot. With this card, though, I don't necessarily feel that heartbreak because there is no heart included in the art. The funny thing that I actually feel here is there is sort of like this solidifying, I feel like. When I look at this sword here, straight down, crossed by these two swords, it almost feels like a strengthening to me. It feels like maybe we're shoring ourselves up. This wrapping of this blue ribbon to me feels like blues always sort of represent like calmness, peace, and the idea of certainty, right? And so to me, this feels like becoming certain. And by month's end, I feel like we've sort of shored up something mentally and really kind of put it into place or into a sort of like grounded it in a way and sort of how do I want to say this? Like I'm hearing that sort of Gandalf thing again. You shall not pass. Like it's like putting our foot down and being like no more. And that might be some for some of you. I'm gonna take it back to this center card. Some of you who might be feeling like sort of negative emotions throughout the month of February, or feeling a little bit sad, or feeling the push of this Hangman card and the outside opinions in this Five of Wands, you might need to strengthen yourself up mentally and sort of bring that calmness, that peace, that certainty in, and kind of shore yourself up even more so, like you have done in the past with this Knight of Wands. So I do feel like this does not feel like a negative card to me. This feels like becoming really solid in what we believe and what we think, and really sort of planting it there and like not tying ourselves to it, but really um, backing it up by standing firm with it. I feel like this firmness with this card. I feel like this not only is it sort of wrapped in this certainty and this calmness and peacefulness, but I feel like it's being like shoved into the ground like ugh. And then not only are we doing that, but we're sort of backing it up with two more swords behind it to give support to it. So it's funny, but this card to me does not feel negative like the normal Three of Swords would be, which would sort of signify heartbreak and things like that. To me, this feels like my Aries are going to be shoring up mentally, and that might be by month's end. You might need to do that because of the emotionality of all the abundance here. We might need to swing back towards the logic in some of it to sort of make sure that we keep on our on this trajectory towards this, you know, this abundance that we see here, and this kind of new dynamic energy that is in the Ace of Pentacles, okay? Or not, yes, Ace of Pentacles. So this almost feels like a mental strengthening. You know, this could be, as far as the negative aspect of the Three of Swords, this could be, you know, finding calm and peace and serenity from past experiences that caused us heartache, right? And that's from having been in this sort of emotional state throughout the month. And I don't mean emotional state like in a bad way. I mean like just really exploring our emotions abundantly and owning them, both good and bad. It might, you know, some of our past experiences may come back, but I feel like this card to me says that we're going to be stronger than those memories. Those memories aren't going to necessarily have the charge that they originally had. They're not going to necessarily be a driving factor for us much anymore going into the future. Does that make sense? So I do feel like this is a beneficial card, but it might dredge up some memories that, you know, have a little bit of a tinge of emotion to them. But that's okay. We're going through this abundance of emotions, and we're kind of becoming thankful for everything that we experience, both good and bad, in the month of February. All right, Aries, that is your reading. I hope that makes sense. If you guys are interested in a personalized reading that would be more suited to you, this is for a broad spectrum of people under one sign, both, sun, moon, and rising. So if you are interested in a personal reading, you can message me at my Facebook business page, or you can look at the description box and it gives you how to get in contact with me. Those are always available to you. Please like, share, follow, subscribe. Definitely give me a subscription over on YouTube if you're watching me on Facebook, and vice versa. If you're on YouTube, go over and like my business page if you don't mind. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys next month. All right, thank you. Hello, Leos. Oh, my Leos, my Leos. What's up, Leos? Let's knock some of that energy off and look at what's going on for Leo in the month of February 2020. What is going on, Leo? Sun, moon, rising, people with heavily placed Leonine planets, people with that like cat food. I'm just kidding. Alright, let me see what's going on with Leo here. So I'm just going to say this because I said it at the beginning of Aries. If you guys want to support the channel, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. Every subscription makes me giddy like a little girl. And it's been uphill battle. So if you're watching on Facebook, please go over and subscribe to my YouTube channel and vice versa. You can also follow me on Instagram at Engelgeist333. I do post over there a little bit on YouTube and Instagram. And if you're interested in booking a private reading, you can always message me at my business page on Facebook. Or that's really the only way to get a hold of me if you want, but it is available to you. So let's see what's going on for Leo in the month of February. Okay. All right, this first card is the center card. It's sort of what everything revolves around in the month of February. So I use this as the sort of the U card or the default setting, right? This is kind of where we're at most of the month in February. It not only gives us an idea of sort of the theme of February or where we're going to be resonating the most, but it also gives us an idea of what we could potentially be creating in the future, right? Because this is where we're vibing at. So we have Temperance. Beautiful. I love this. So we're kicking off as our center, as our center with this beautiful sort of major arcana card, which says to me there's quite a bit of energy to this, quite a bit of impact to this, right? The major arcanas are sort of the heavy hitters. And so to me, with this as our center, it feels like this could be a very pivotal month for Leos. But the distinct feeling I'm getting as I'm saying that, I heard this, it's going to be pivotal, but it's going to be pivotal in a very subtle way, okay? Like that's what I'm hearing. The Temperance, to me, is the aspect of the subtle part of this. The fragility of this butterfly is also the aspect of the subtle part of this. This color of this purple is also the aspect of this sort of subtleness, this mauve color that's very peaceful and calming. There's something about this butterfly that I feel like we've come into contact with sort of what we know about ourselves and our own beauty. And when I look at this butterfly, I want to say to my Leos, it's like this is the month where we're sort of deciding where we are going to take off to and fly. Right? This is the month where we're sort of, when I look at these two cups pouring back and forth, Temperance is always about like sort of really weighing things out and being discerning or methodical in making any sort of big or major decisions. And I feel like the month of February feels like that for you guys, especially as I'm looking at this card. It feels like we're looking at sort of, okay, where do we go next here? And how do we want to get there? But as we know that, like as we're sort of contemplating that, I feel like we're doing that from this place of, how do I want to say this? Like we're really valuing ourselves while we're taking this time out to kind of make these decisions from a very like grounded and I don't know if self-preserving is the right word, but like the feeling that I get here is there's an appreciation of ourselves here, and that's why we're utilizing this Temperance card as our center, right? We're sort of going, okay, We know what we're worth. We know our own beauty. We know our own strength. We know what we bring to the table. We know what we offer people. And then I almost feel like as I'm looking at this card, there's like an inventory that's taking place throughout the month of February. Like, is this situation deserve my attention? Does this relationship deserve my attention? Does this job deserve my attention? Does this, and the thing is that with this beautiful blue butterfly, it feels like to me, we're certain at this point, or we're really aware at this point of what we kind of want and what we deserve. And I feel like with this temperance card, there might be an inventory taking process throughout the month of February of what do we shed, which direction are we heading, and there's this peacefulness to this. I feel like there's this calm. It feels very centered, but I feel like these decisions that we make in the month of February are going to have a large impact down the line. Okay, so keep that in mind. They may feel like small decisions, or they may feel like they're they're not as impactful as we think, but I really do think that they are. Some of you Leos, I'm going to say this too, I'm feeling this from the card too. Some of you Leos, I think that this is a downtime for you, and that's okay. Like, revel in it and enjoy it. But some of you might feel a little bored or a little bit like, I'm getting this feeling like as I look at the butterfly, I'm hearing like, I want to go, I want to go. Like, hurry up and let's get there, let's get there. Temperance is not about hurrying up. Temperance is about sort of really understanding what we're worth. And I think that we all do. As I'm looking at this card, I think that looking at this beautiful butterfly, it says to me that Leo knows their worth. But there might be some Leos, maybe with different planetary placements, that might be a little bit, maybe you feel like you've been in a holding pattern for a little while. This temperance card says you may have to do the rest of February in the same holding pattern. Don't push it, is what I want to say, okay? It feels like this butterfly, it wants to like fly right off of this card in some ways for some of you. And so be mindful of that, because you don't want to like just sort of barrel in. There are no wrong decisions. I don't want to ever lead anybody to believe that there's wrong decisions. But if you act too hastily, it's kind of going against what this center is about, which is this temperance, this idea of taking the time to really get methodical or meditative and make the decisions from a really clear place, okay? So I'm going to place this back into the center. The next card is your foundation card. This is the card that represents sort of why things are the way they are, what happened in the past that opened the door for these things to be the way that they are today. It also is sort of the memory of this card that sort of holds everything in place. Oh, beautiful. He's new to us. This is the King of Swords. So this is about standing our ground. When I look at this, I think he's a cheetah. Get it, Chester Cheetah. When I look at him, he feels like he is like, oh no, bitch, not today. Do you see that sass in that face? I do. I feel like this is about Leo. I love that Leo's foundation is a large cat of all the different cards, because there's a multitude of animals in these cards, but you guys represent as this large cheetah, which I feel like that's in line with you guys. But this is swords, so this feels like mentally you guys have had to shore yourself up. Mentally, you've had to sort of maybe make some clear-cut decisions about, say, maybe what's working and what's not working. You've maybe had to put your foot down in the recent past, or draw some serious like boundaries, or what's the word I'm looking for? To me, this king feels like he's laying down the law, and he's showing us his sword. Like, I really hear this. Excuse my language, but he looks to me like he's saying, "Come on, fuck with me, bitch." Like, do not. So I feel like maybe my Leos have felt a little bit hard pressed in the months leading up to now. They've had to maybe not overstep their boundaries, but like sort of really kind of clarify their boundaries in a way that, to me, I feel like maybe isn't necessarily as comfortable as they. Yeah, I don't know. That's not the right way I want to say this. Um, uh, Leos have had to. Sorry, I'm trying to like put this together because I'm hearing it and I want to make sure that I deliver it correctly. You guys have had to sort of mentally lay down the law, or set those boundaries in a way that's not sort of in tune with your usual like sort of happy-go-lucky nature, right? There's usually this like the feeling I'm getting as I'm looking at this card is that Leos tend to be gregarious, loving. You guys are generous and want to bestow love and not really shake the apple cart, right? Or tip over the apple cart. You guys tend to want to have a pleasant time and just everybody gets along and everybody does the right thing and let's all take care of each other. And it's that wonderful sort of gregarious nature about Leos. When I look at this cheetah, to me, it feels like at some point in the past, we've sort of had to like be like, no. And Leo doesn't like that. Leo likes to be sort of free, easy, life of the party. And so I feel like there is a strength in this King of Swords, right? But there's also a definitive kind of line that is needed to be drawn. Like as I'm looking at this card, it feels like he has had to put that sword in the sand and go, do not cross this line. And I feel like as I'm saying that, some of my Leos are kind of maybe upset that they've had to go to this place leading up to now. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you guys. I don't know if it does. If it does, please leave me a comment in the comment section when this video is fully uploaded. This temperance says to me, this is the break that we've had after sort of really putting our foot down and making a clear, concise decision of what we no longer want going on, right? He's very over it to me as I'm feeling that. And that's not necessarily the meaning of the King of Wands, but what I'm feeling from him is my Leos have kind of had to put their foot down in the months preceding. And because of that, they've sort of laid down the law and now they're kind of recalibrating in a way with this temperance card. It's sort of being very careful about what we let in, how we let it in, you know, whether or not we're going to allow people to sort of do the exact same things that we told them not to do. Does that make sense? So keep that in mind as you move forward, right? Like this temperance card to me feels very important in the sense that we want to make the right decisions for the right reasons at this point. This next card is the soul or spirit card. This card tells me a bit about sort of where your soul or spirit is at in the month of February, what it wants or what it's working on. So this is the Page of Wands. Interesting. So I like the Page of Wands. Wands is the element of fire, so I love that this is in your soul space, Leo's being a fire element sign. When I look at this page, to me it feels, again, I feel this sense immediately of, okay, where do we go from here? It's similar to that butterfly in the Temperance card. It's like, one second. Okay. When I look at this cheetah, and I look at this bird, and I look at that butterfly, they all feel like they're sort of unhappy in their current position. Not unhappy, but they sort of feel like they're ready for something more. And this page says to me that it's ready for something more at a spiritual level. We're ready to learn more. We're ready to take in more information. We're ready to sort of move on to different horizons. We're ready, like I feel like we have this wand here with these two big buds on it. Like the growth has happened, the learning has happened. We've gotten to like sort of that plateau. We can take that with us now. And now it's like, so where do we head from here is sort of the look on this bird's face. It's like, okay, so what's next? And with pages, it's always about sort of new enthusiastic learning, right, in my mind. And so when this being the element of fire and the element of spirit, and in our spirit space, it's like, okay, so where do we go next to help us to grow? Where do we go next that inspires us at a deeper level? And that's kind of this the questioning that I feel like in this temperance card. There's like, to me, when I look at this Page of Wands in your spirit space, your spirit, I almost feel like February is going to be a month where your spirit is sort of making decisions about which direction to go in next. There's something that's been sort of clearly defined that we don't want, or that we no longer will deal with, put up with, whatever that is that we've sort of drawn the line with in the last few months, that now sort of has set the trajectory for us to sort of head in a different direction towards different goals. Hence, we have this beautiful butterfly that's honoring itself and its own beauty. It's ready to take off, but it wants to take off in the right direction, at the right time. Does that make sense? And that's where we're sort of holding. And this bird to me also feels like he is sort of deciding. He's gathering up the wands and the knowledge and the growth that he has and he's learned in this sort of like last segment, or maybe this last decade. And now it's like, okay, where do we go from here? Right? So there's an opportunity here and an excitement here for new things to sort of transpire, new opportunities to come to pass. But we need to also, like I've said, be patient and give ourselves that moment to sort of make those decisions, right? And so keep that in mind as as you move through the month of February. Now, these next two cards are the outside influences. These can be people, events, sometimes things more vague, like energies or belief systems that are having an effect on us as we uh, oh God, I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. As we go through the month of February. So just they can either be helping us or hindering us. So this is the Knight of Wands. I like this card. Again, we have Wands energy here. I feel like this is the person that's going to help us make this decision instantly as I look at this, because we have this page here. There's going to be potentially a male. This could be a female, but a very sort of like opinionated or in charge female, if it is a female. But this could definitely be a male, usually a fire sign. That would, you know, be another Leo, an Aries, possibly a Sagittarius. But to me, I feel like this is sort of that guidance, that direct guidance. It will be sort of how do I want to say, grounded and honorable. It will be noble. It will be clear. And I feel like him doing this sort of side glance, this side profile, he wants to take us on to the future. He wants to show us the different paths that we can take. He's sort of maybe been through some of our experiences. That's might be how we recognize him. So whatever we might be questioning in this page space or with this temperance card, he's sort of ready to kind of take us there when we're ready to hear his message, right? Or when we're ready to sort of take that on board. I'm not saying take your own information over anybody else's though, so keep that in mind. But his information is probably going to be in line with what you've already known to be true. So keep an eye out for his validation in the month of February. He may show up for you and give you sort of say to you all the things that like you kind of already knew inside, and he just sort of is like the closer is what I'm hearing. Like he'll be the one that closes the deal for you, seals the deal, and gives you the sort of like awareness that okay, yeah, that's the what I want to do, or that's now's the time, we're ready to go. Okay. The other card here is the Lovers. Beautiful. So this is an opportunity for us to focus on everything that we want and desire, both in our relationships with others. This is a big energy. This is a major arcana card. This is about sort of opportunities coming to us to sort of honor the relationships that are feeding us and giving us the love that we deserve. This is very much needed, I feel like, especially when I look at this King of Swords here. I feel like maybe in our recent relationships or in the recent, like say last year, we've had to draw some serious boundaries in some of our relationships. And because of that, this idea of the Lovers card coming in as an outside influence shows us that like we want to honor those relationships that are still treating us right, that are making us feel good, and allow those to also be sort of how do I want to say this, like teachers or opportunities to guide us through the month of February. And these relationships, right? This opportunity to experience this love around us and to sort of focus on it is also going to help to sort of aid this the balance that we seek in the Temperance card. It's going to also help us to get to that place where we're even more fully fledged and ready to make the decision and move forward. Now, the last card is what I call the potential outcomes card. This card tells me a bit about sort of where things are naturally going to head, barring that nothing major changes. This is not set in stone by any means, so this could be, you know, if it's something negative, we can look at it as a warning and use our free will to make choices and changes to affect the outcome. But if it is something that is good and we do want to have happen, we can take heart in the fact that it's naturally progressing towards this outcome, and we can just sort of allow it to flow towards this card. So this is the Ten of Pentacles. This is great. This is all about abundance. This is about financial abundance. This is about sort of love abundance. And I think that that's this Lover's card here. That's also in this clear decision making that we see in this Knight of Wands. Like when we start to listen to this voice, if this is our own internal voice, or if this is the voice of, you know, if the outside environment is giving us very clear signals that yes, you're on the right track, this is the time, this is when to do it. Trust those things, even if it doesn't come to us in the form of an actual outside person. But this very well could be an outside person. It's going to help us to shore up these decisions that we maybe haven't fully felt clear and fully defined yet within our spirit space. And when we do that, we're going to head towards sort of the building and dreaming and creation of dreams that, or not creation of dreams, but the creation of sort of abundance and wealth in whatever form that takes for you. If that abundance and wealth is like, you know, the loving relationships of you and your family, if that abundance and wealth is, you know, I want to make a bunch of money, whatever that is, this Ten of Pentacles says to me that it's out there and ready for you by, you know, by month's end. It feels like you're on your way to that place through focusing on the love and by, you know, having a clear vision of what it is that you want. Right now, you might be sort of working on, throughout the month of February, you may be working on finding that clear vision, but allow yourself that time and that space and know that when it will be right, it will be right. You guys will move correctly. This is your foundation, which is the King of Swords, which is very clear thinking, very clearly defined boundaries, very clear knowing, right? There's a determination in him that is your foundation for this month, that you've kind of come into contact in the months previous, right? You have that energy sort of still driving you, or still sort of guiding you in a way. And so allow that clear thinking, allow that clear decision making, and all of that comes along with that to help you to start to create this abundance that we see in this Ten of Pentacles. I do get a feeling that this Ten of Pentacles isn't like something that's going to magically appear by the end of February. If some of you do have some big, like, you know, abundant overflow by the end of February, please do let me know. But to me, this feels like the door's open to us creating that over the next few months, right? But the reality is the decision will get made in February, and then we start to see the final outcome and work our way towards it, is the feeling that I'm getting from that Ten of Pentacles. So Leo, that is your reading for the month of February 2020. I hope that makes sense. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave me a comment, a like, a share. Definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell. You can follow me on Instagram at Engelgeist333. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an awesome February, and I look forward to seeing you guys again in March. Now, on to Sagittarius, my last sign for this month. Sagittarius 2020, Sun, Moon, Rising. My little pointer just broke. That's why I sort of brain farted earlier in Leo's. The crystal just fell out of my pointer. I gotta get some glue and put it back in there. Some crazy glue. I tapped that pointer too much probably on things, and it probably not. All right, welcome Sagittarius. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your February 2020 forecast for the month of February. Please take what you like and leave the rest. This is for all Sages, or all people with Sag as their sun, moon, rising, or heavily placed planets in Sagittarius. If you are involved with a Sagittarius, you can certainly cross-watch. Ways to support the channel: book a private reading with me. All information is in the description box once the video is fully loaded up to YouTube, or you can message me at my Facebook business page. Follow me at Engelgeist333 if you'd like, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm begging ya. Alright, let's see what's going on for my Sagittarius. Wow, it feels like you guys are excited to get out of the gate for February. Like the cards couldn't like jump down fast enough when I cut the deck. Alright, let's see what we got going on here. So this center card is the U card, right? This tells me a little bit sort of about where you're centered at in the month of February, kind of where you're resonating at, or what the theme's going to be for February for you guys. It also gives me a little insight into what you could potentially be creating for the future. So this is the Page of Wands. This was just in Leo's reading. So to me, this is about a decision that needs to be made. I love that this is a fire sign in your central space. So it feels like you're in your element in the month of February. You're going to feel sort of lined up. You may not feel completely sure about what your choices or decisions are, but I feel like there's an opportunity for learning here. There's an optimism and an open-mindedness that needs to sort of be acknowledged and made like used to your advantage, right? I feel like this bird sort of is kind of quizzical in a way, like he's sort of questioning things around him. As I'm looking at his face, I'm sort of feeling like he doesn't necessarily feel like he completely understands why things are the way around, why they are the way that they are around him right now. And so as he's like taking this all in and utilizing his own sort of awareness and knowledge that I feel like is in these two buds here, he's kind of measuring that to what he's watching going on around him, right? So there might be this opportunity of feeling in the month of February a little bit out of your depths a little bit, but I don't think that it's going to be a bad feeling or uncomfortable. It's more just about sort of like a, when I'm looking at this card, it feels like we might be passively watching those that are around us, situations that are around us, situations that we're involved in, and kind of questioning ourselves, is this really what I want? Is this where I want to be? Is this really um, uh, for my highest good or for my highest learning? Does that make sense? There is this opportunity with pages to learn new routes or learn new paths, open ourselves up to that sort of a thing. And so I feel like there could be this opportunity for Sag to sort of maybe shift gears and maybe set our sights on something new, and that would be also the sort of newness of the page or the learning aspect of the page. Whatever it is, keep this sort of idea of enthusiasm and optimism with you throughout the month of February. Even if you maybe don't feel like you have all of the answers, trust that no matter what you choose or how you choose to handle yourself, you will be okay, and you will learn from it as you go through the month. Now let's look at the foundation card. The foundation card is sort of what opened the door for things to be the way that they are in the spread today. So this is usually the past, and it's also the memory of this card that keeps sort of everything in place. So this is the Star. I love this card. I don't think I've seen the Star in this deck yet. Star is one of my favorite cards. The Star is always about sort of like this, to me, about sort of possessing our own beauty and light and sort of letting it shine in a strong way, but like sort of in a passive way, right? Like to me, the stars shine their light and they don't necessarily need to prove themselves in any way, right? They're just sort of magically like in sync or tuned in. And to me, that's this energy, right? This to me looks like sage, and it's sort of wafting this smoke up around the star. So there's a cleansing to this. There may have been a purging that we've gone through. That might be why we feel a little bit new or young with this page as our center. We might have, as you know, Sagittarians might have just come through something that sort of we needed to not overcome, but like experience, so that we could learn about our own growth, about our own beauty, about our own light, right? And this star being the foundation says to me that you guys have learned about your light. You have learned about like sort of what it's like, almost like, I want to say like a new level of your sense of self has been revealed to you maybe in the recent months. That's the star energy. And from that, now we have this page of wands, which is also very spiritual in nature, right? So we have this sort of a new plateau that we're now working from, this new awareness of self, this new sort of idea of what we deserve, and how we go about getting that in the month of February is maybe a focus for ourselves, right? Now, the top card is your spirit or soul card. This tells me what your spirit or soul is looking at or working on. So this is the Seven of Swords. This is about firming up our belief in self, is what I feel like immediately when I flip this card over. The mental aspect of this being a swords card in our spiritual space says to me, it's like lining up our spirit with our mind, lining our mind up with like sort of what we know to be true. And the reason why I say this is we have this beauty as the foundation of the star, right? We have this sort of cleansing energy. We have this innate ability to shine within us, but the star is often as subtle and like so sort of I don't know if demure is the right word, but it's such a I guess like a sort of a passive energy, right? There's this quiet compassion with the star, right? Compassion towards ourselves and towards others. This understanding of sort of like that our own beauty, but not in a way that's like, it's very sort of, how do I want to say this? To me, okay, so this is about honoring ourselves and realizing our light and what we deserve, cleansing that and sort of really owning it. This sage has really got me all about cleansing on this card. But this being our foundation, it's brought us to this new place of feeling a little bit unsure or a little bit like kind of, okay, ready for the next stage of our spiritual growth. And we're kind of like, where do we go from here? What do we learn from here? How do we we're studying people around us. We're trying to like sort of assess situations and figure things out. Now in our spirit space, we have this large sword being planted firmly down and wrapped in the yellow. Yellow often represents sort of, it can represent anxiety to me, but it can also represent sort of the mind working overtime. And so this being in the spirit space says to me that like it's sort of like the spirit wants our mind to line up and kind of get control of anything that we might be worrying about. We've got enough sort of outside opinions coming at us that we need to sort of shore up and get really strong in who we are and mentally strong, right? Mentally aware of what we deserve and start to go after it. This is sort of the antithesis of kind of the questioning that I see in this card, and also sort of the like, you know, the smoke is kind of coming up and wrapping around the star. It's really beautiful and lovely, but to me, it's not as direct or as dynamic as you may need it to be. And that's what this card is calling out for from the soul space. The soul, it's almost like to me, I look at that card and it's like the soul is saying, all right, let's get our mind together. Let's like really start to own this. This star is beautiful, but it's like there's a looseness to it, or something that's not so clearly defined, that maybe it's worked for us in the past, but we need something a little bit more firm or a little bit more clear cutting to be able to move ourselves forward in February. So just keep that in mind. I don't know if that makes sense for my Sagittarius, but please let me know in the comments. These other two cards here are the outside influence cards. These are sometimes people, events, things more vague like energies or belief systems that are having an effect on us in the month of February, either positively or negatively. So this is the Six of Swords. When I look at this card, the minute I see this, I feel sort of like this defense, like this, like there might be situations in the month of February that might make us feel as though we need to sort of take the defensive, or that we might feel like we need to protect ourselves in some way. And that might be sort of what's going on here in the spirit space too. I feel like this is outside influences, right? And these swords are pointing outward. So to me, as I'm looking at this, I kind of feel like it's us maybe sort of defending ourselves in the situations that might be coming at us. This could be like thoughts where we feel like we're being persecuted, or thoughts where we feel like we're being judged, that sort of a thing. And we're going to feel that because of the unsureness of this Page of Wands here. But this is why the Spirit is calling for us to be stronger and wiser and smarter, and own that. Like, let go of the anxiety, let go of the overthinking, and just own who you are and what you know to be true. Because there's going to be some experiences that are going to come in February that are going to make us feel like, you know, maybe a little bit under attack or a little bit on the defensive side. That's okay. I think that we can, you know, we can be okay with it, but don't be surprised if we're feeling a little bit like sort of maybe, like to me, I feel this sort of sense of like, are people talking about me? Am I being judged? I don't necessarily know that you actually are Sag, but I do feel like you might feel that way, or that the outside environment is going to make you feel like people are paying you a little bit extra attention. And it's interesting too, because now as I'm saying that, I'm looking at this sage wafting up into your reading, trying to cleanse your energy and your aura. So I don't know if you guys have been feeling judged even previous, maybe up until this point. It might be something that's laying over from like the last few months. But as I'm looking at this and I'm saying that, and I'm looking at these swords kind of spread out in defense of ourselves, right? That we might be in some events or some situations where we feel like the need to kind of keep people at bay. This sage feels like it's also sort of cleansing our space. There's this beauty in the star card that we can tap into that's very kind of quiet and passive. Oh my god, okay, Nine of Swords. I'm gonna say that you guys are totally feeling let me just look at this for 1 minute. I feel like there's a lot of attention being placed on the Sages in the month of February. And I feel like some of it is going to make us feel like defensive. And some of it is going to be like, to me, I feel a little bit of overwhelm, but I also feel that there's like a self-assured beauty in this flower that I feel like is similar to this star energy, where it's like no matter what things people throw at us, if we're almost passive about it, or if we resist it less, there's a beauty and a strength within this rose and within this energy of the star, and even in this page of wands, even in the sort of unknowing of this page of wands, that we need to trust, is what I'm hearing. We need to shore up our mind and get strong in what we know to believe and be true. There's a lot of swords poking out everywhere, like up here. Um, you've got swords going everywhere in this reading. Like it's crazy. You're like surrounded by all of this air energy. Let me just look at this for a minute. And it's interesting to me too, because air is the complementary energy of fire, right? And you need oxygen to feed a fire. And sometimes when a fire, like if you know, when fire gets oxygen, it can burn out of control. And then I'm looking at this sage burning at the bottom of the reading and all of this smoke. I don't think that this is like a bad month per se. I just feel like it looks like it's going to be a mentally challenging month for my Sages if they're not careful, if they're not like working on sort of clearing up their own sort of perception of things, their own mind. Um, I also think that there's an opportunity here to either operate defensively, which would be in resistance to what's going on around us and being on the defense, or being offensively, where this feels to me like we're more passive, we're honoring our beauty, we're honoring our strength, we're honoring our fragility. Others might be coming in at us, like sort of offering us their opinions or their misguided advice, whatever you want to call that there, and that might seem a little bit overwhelming to us. But I think that there is to me, this feels more in line with the energy of this star card, right? Where it's that sort of passive strength, that passive compassion, that passive beauty, that ability to know that no matter what, we're going to be okay, even if it feels a little bit overwhelming or a little bit, I don't know, like too much energy, too much attention kind of thing. Um, February might be a big month for us, just kind of mentally challenging. So let me look at this last card as the final outcome, because that might give me a little bit more insight into all what's going on here. But um, this final outcomes card is not set in stone. I always say this. It is sort of where the energy will naturally head, barring that nothing major changes, right? So this card is not set in stone. We can use it, if it's a negative card, we can use it as a warning to make choices and changes through free will to affect the outcome so it doesn't come to pass. But if it's something that's good and we do want to have come to pass, we can just take heart in the fact that it's naturally heading our way. So let's see what it is. Wow. Okay. It's the Five of Swords. This is going to give us the opportunity to cut away that anxiety, that overthinking, that what I see here, what our spirit, our soul wants us to work on. Like our spirit and our soul wants us to get control of this anxiety or this overthinking and the opinions of others and sort of like whatever, wherever that's challenging us, wherever that's sort of driving us maybe a little bit crazy or a little bit nuts. To me, this feels like these swords are finally laying down and we've cut free of this ribbon. We've cut free of this sort of anxiety or this overthinking, and we've sort of, this sword is bigger than all of the rest. So I do feel like this is a positive outcome. I do feel like it's going to be a mentally taxing month for my Sages. Just with all of this swords energy happening around you. The star is a very strong energy, but it's sort of like, to me, it's very passive, right? It's very gentle in its strength. So with all of this sort of, all of these sort of swords flying everywhere in this reading, and then you have this center of this page of wands, which is your home element, which is like a good thing, but it feels like the page is not necessarily I don't want to say it's strong, not strong enough to deal with all of this, but I do feel like you're gonna, in the month of February, you might feel like you're being pushed to your limits. You might feel like you're being judged. You might feel like you're judging yourself. That's this yellow energy of this ribbon. Or you're not like believing in yourself enough and giving yourself enough credit. And from that, you're acting from that place. that would in turn make you act from a place of defense, where you put out sort of these swords, which would make you feel that would almost, doing that, I'm going to just say this, doing that would almost attract more to have to defend yourself from. So if we choose not to sort of feed that, or give attention to these influences or opportunities, situations that might require this of us, if we take a more passive role and we do like this Nine of Swords and we allow that stuff in and don't fight it, we are able to see our own beauty of this rose, but that could also be a little bit overwhelming, right? But what I do think is that regardless of which road that we take, what's going to end up happening is we are going to cut ourselves free from any limiting beliefs, any anxiety, any worrying, any sort of self-doubt by month's end. And the reason why I say this is because this sword here, which to me represents the Sages, which represents sort of this sword, the biggest sword here, wrapped in that yellow ribbon, has been cut free. And these four swords, although they may have been the pains and the asses that we see here, here, and that we're fighting against in this card here, they have like sort of laid themselves down, right? They're pointing downward. And so to me, it feels like we are victorious by month's end, maybe through a little bit of a fight, maybe through a little bit of a struggle. I do feel that with this yellow ribbon, the struggle will be more internal than external. The struggle might be more made up in our own minds or in our own worries and self-doubt than in others. But these people's opinions, or their sort of presence, their sort of challenge, is actually going to afford us this growth, right? So when I look at these four swords sort of being laid down, they're kind of bowing down to us in some way as I'm looking at this. And I also want to say this too, in each of these outside influences, there's more swords than there are here in this five. So we do sort of, I don't want to say slay, because I don't think we're going out into the world to slay other people, but they don't, how do I want to say this? It's like they will sort of dissipate. Some will fall off, some will go away, and then they are going to sort of bow to you, not bow to you, but like they will sort of set you free by sort of putting you through the mill. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And I have to say this too, this star card that's at the foundation of all of this sage in this star card that's sort of smoking and going up into the ethers around that star is telling me that this is all a period of cleansing for you. Mental cleansing. That's why that star card sits at the foundation. And it's funny too, because this sage is like coming right up off of this sword, right? So it feels like a continuation of that. If you look at the design, just in the way that I laid the cards by accident. So to me, it feels like as we cut ourselves free, we almost need to be thankful to these four swords or these outside influences that maybe are driving us nuts, because what they're going to do is they're going to teach us how to sort of almost be more like the star, be passive to them, and just allow them to wreak their havoc, and realize that they don't have the power over us that we thought that they did. It's sort of like the power that we've been giving them, that our soul wants us to break free from. Like, stop giving them attention, stop giving them power, stop, turning our sort of our minds over to them and the struggle. Does that make sense, guys? This is strange, because this to me, and then, oh, okay, and then, this is sort of the lesson of the Page of Wands. We're like learning and educating ourselves at a spiritual level this month in February through our mental limitations. And we're purifying ourselves and getting ourselves closer to the clarity that is the star. That's sort of the foundation, that's sort of the path that we're on, whether we realize it or not. That's kind of what I'm seeing here for my Sages. I hope that makes sense. I hope I don't sound like a total Fruit Loop. But that's what I'm seeing here. That's what I'm sensing here. Be mindful of February. If you do feel a little bit tired and a little bit beleaguered, I think that that's okay. It's going to be hard work, but you will be free of it by month's end. You will have done the freeing. And I think too, you're also going to have a new sort of appreciation for some of the situations, characters, people, whatever it is that sort of gets your goat right now, or it will be getting your goat, or has been getting your goat, you will be set free from it. You will be cleansed of it. You just don't know that quite yet because you're in this state of the Page of Wands. You're going to feel a little bit maybe overwhelmed at times and unsure, but you got to just stick with it. And remember that your soul's not going to lead you wrong. Some of this is about your mental capacity and what you can release and what you can let go of. So keep that in mind moving through February. All right, so I am going to leave you guys with that as your reading for February. I hope that makes sense and it offers you guys some clarity. It certainly looks like you guys are about to get some really good mental clarity. Anywhere where you were tied in sort of knots or in worry or self-doubt, it looks like it will be released in the month of February. Barring that you, how do I want to say this? Depending on how you go about handling those outside influences. One is defensive, one is more offensive. The offensive one feels like the easier option, although it might be overwhelming and it might feel a little bit scary. It might not be our natural sort of go-to. But, all right, I'm going to leave you guys with that. If you guys are interested in a private reading, you certainly can feel free to contact me at the Facebook business page. In the description is all of my information about how to contact me. In the Linktree links, you can follow me at Engelgeist333 on Instagram. All my links are there in the bio. I look forward to seeing you guys in March. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends about my channel if you're enjoying it, if it's making sense to you and resonating with you. Please share it with your friends that may appreciate it. I would greatly appreciate it. And I appreciate you tuning in today. Have a great day. Have a great month of February. And I will see you guys in March. All right. Bye-bye.